Our society, has always hailed teachers as heroes, selfless, noble, courageous educators, and caretakers of our children. The teaching profession was one of the few we were supposed to celebrate unquestioningly. Teachers were one of only a few professional groups we were meant to applaud simply for existing. Now, this attitude towards really any profession at all was and is and has always been wrong-headed. Nobody is a hero merely for working in a certain occupation. I don't care what the occupation is because they're getting paid. Whatever the line of work is, most people get into it because it's something they think they can do and they want to do and they think they can make money doing it. It's not about reason to take on a job by any means. It's also not heroic. It's sort of a morally neutral motivation most of the time. Doing something because you want to do it and you think you're good at it doesn't make you a martyr or a saint. It doesn't make you a bad person either. It just makes you a person like the rest of us. So there are good teachers, plenty of them, even heroic teachers. I've known some, but they aren't good or heroic simply for being teachers, and that's the distinction to keep in mind. The problem with adopting a romanticized view of any profession is that it makes it impossible to hold the people in that profession accountable or to criticize them when they deserve it. This is exactly why this romanticized idea was cultivated in the first place. It becomes especially problematic when we're talking about people who work so closely with and have such an influence over our children. Things should be cause for extra scrutiny, more accountability, louder criticism when warranted, because the consequence of turning a blind eye or ignoring the bad things when your children aren't concerned could be catastrophic. The teachers' union have made this situation so much worse, but worse, both by training any criticism of teachers and as an attack of the teaching profession, haranguing the people into turning that blind eye and ignoring the neglect or abuse of our children in the school system, which does happen and has always happened, and also by fiercely protecting the bad teachers while demanding ever more considerations and benefits and perks for all teachers irrespective of their job performance. The whole situation is quite a mess, to put it mildly, and that mess has been thrown into more sharper relief over the past nearly a year now, when schools across the country have been shut down. It was, of course, known almost from the beginning, as we've talked about many times in the show, that there was no real reason to have schools shut down at all. As children are not likely to contract or spread the virus, it became even clearer as time went on that the consequences of having the schools shut down and trying to replace them with Skype and Zoom sessions were dire. We talked yesterday about the suicide epidemic in one of the largest school districts in the country, prompting a renewed push for classes to resume in person in that district. And yet, still, the teachers' unions and many teachers themselves, though certainly not all, have demanded that schools stay shut, education be damned, the children be damned, goalposts keep moving, and there's no end to this process of goalposts shifting as we have learned. Here's now bad. Here's now bad. It's gotten the Washington Post as an editorial, editorial, um, an appropriately critical, even fairly editorial about the teachers union in Fairfax County and everything the teachers union is doing to avoid going back to work. Let me read a bit. This is written by Rory Cooper, who's a parent of 3 students in the district. It says, quote, the Fairfax County school system demanded and then received high priority placement for teachers and administrators to be vaccinated against the coronavirus. Those vaccines began a week ago, and according to the Fairfax County Public School Superintendent Scott Brabrand, yes, his name is Brabrand. Anyway, 5,000 teachers have received their first dose, and an additional 22,000 teachers are registered to receive their first dose soon. And yet, having jumped to the front of the vaccine line, Brabrand, the FCPS school board, and the I can't even say the last name without laughing. I should be in public school myself. Um, the Fs and the FCPS school board and the teachers unit are delaying open schools. That raises the question of why they have the priority placement to begin with, and whether these vaccinations should be immediately halted So high-risk individuals or public servants who have been working outside their homes for the entirety of the year have access. Okay, so let's not understate what's happening here. The teachers union engaging a form of extortion, really holding the education system hostage so that they themselves could get to the front of the vaccine line, butting in front of the elderly people, sick people, other high risk people. Keep in mind that the average age of a teacher in the US is 42. About 15% of teachers are under 30. Under 30. So these by and large are not high risk people. Many of them have little to worry about. Even if they get sick if you're 27, even if you're a teacher and you get sick, you're probably gonna be so the statics tell us that they are put to the front of the line, and after being given what they want, they still refuse to go to work. And when I say that, I mean the union. We have to keep in mind, again, that there are plenty of individual teachers who oppose this and vocally, so though not enough for being vocal to my mind, but it gets worse. Listen to this. At the January 21st school board meeting, Fairfax Education Association President Kimberly Adams said she received her first vaccine dose on January 14, 2 days ahead of the scheduled start for school personnel. She said that her union will not support a return to full-time education, even in the fall. The fall, as in September 2021, 9 months after was vaccinated, the union says that all students must also be vaccinated. Adams also wants 14 days of zero community spread. Yes, she now wants the students to be vaccinated too, but kids again are a very, very low risk group also, and this seems like a relevant problem, a little bit of a logistical issue here. There aren't any vaccines currently available for kids under 10, or rather under 14 actually, and her demand for 2 weeks of zero spread is a demand for schools to never resume ever, and yet these people still want to get paid, have been getting paid. They are demanding front of the line for the vaccine, full pay, full benefits, but without having to do their job for a year now and counting. This is quite simple, one of the greatest displays of cowardice and selfishness I have ever witnessed, and if you think I'm exaggerating, remember again that children are not learning anything through Zoom classes. And listen to the teachers themselves, they'll tell you. So the kids, their education is being stunned, and meanwhile, they're increasingly falling into depression and suicide. The teachers' unions look at this and just shrug their shoulders. The only thing they care about, the only thing period at all, is that they personally get the most amount of money and the most amount of benefits for doing the least amount of work possible. And that has always been the concern of the teachers' union, always. And don't expect anybody in the current administration to speak up forcefully against this. The, the Chicago's Teachers Union is also refusing to return to work, even though a plan was put in place to open schools again. So the city wants to open the schools, but the teachers union is saying we're not going to go. They're stamping their feet and saying they're not going to go back to the schools because they're too afraid. President Biden was asked about this yesterday and had a chance to stand up for, the kids and for the education system, but instead, here was his answer. Right now, the Chicago Teachers Union has refused the fight in order to return to in-person classroom for in-person classroom because of a lack of vaccinations. Do you believe, Ayer, the teachers should be returned to schools now? His answer was, I believe we should make school classrooms safe and secure for the students, for the teachers, and for the help that's in those schools maintaining the facilities. We need new ventilation systems in those schools. We need testing for people coming in and out of the classes. We need testing for teachers as well as students. And we need the capacity to know that in fact the sake of the circumstances in the school is safe and secure for everyone. For example, there is no reason why the clear guidance will be that every school should be truly sanitized from the laboratories to the hallways. And so this is about making and none of the school districts that I'm aware of. There may be some public school districts have insisted that all those pieces be in place. Yep, there's his answer. What talk about cowardice? That's the theme here. What an absolute coward. He had a chance to stand up. I mean, Democrats are terrified of teachers' unions. We know that. He had a chance to stand up and say, listen, get back to work. The kids need you. Stop whining and get back to work. Instead, he talks about new ventilation systems in all of the schools in the whole country. Why do they all even need it? What else do you want? Maybe we should demolish all the schools and just rebuild them from scratch just to be safe. Yeah, there could be some leftover viruses in there, or you never know. There could a virus hiding somewhere under a floor tile. So let's just demolish them all, or better yet, demolish them all and not rebuild them, because we might as well if they aren't being used. The upshot here is that school will not return this year for millions of kids, and probably not in the fall either. When all is said and done, millions of kids might end up missing 2 years of their education. Missing 1 year is now the best case scenario. Think about that. Now, for any kid whose parents took over and homeschooled, they won't have missed anything. In fact, they're gonna be better off. Most but most parents aren't doing that. Um, there are many parents who can do it because they still have to work, and so those kids, millions of them, are simply going without, and that will not continue indefinitely because of the chronic, unadulterated cowardice, self-interest, callousness, and laziness of the teachers unions and many of its members. It's as simple as that. Listen, hit that subscribe button right now. Do it right now. I thank you for your compliance. It is somewhat appreciated.